are we today? We are looking at State of the Union memes. We are looking at fallout from the Super Tuesday memes. And you know what? I actually think I'm going to wait until there are more people are here to talk about this story. Because, holy shit. What a blast from the past. Let's see. Well, we will wait until there are more people around before we start much of the actual content. Let me know when people are here by typing in chat, because that's the easiest way for me to know, because that's what I keep my eye on. Okay? Uh-oh. Let's see something here. Oh, no, that's not what I want. I want that. Alrighty. Let's just start off with some easy news memes.
And now the presumptive Republican nominee, Donald Trump, won't be keeping a low profile during the State of the Union. And that's exactly what he's promising. He posted on social media that he will be doing a live play-by-play reaction to the speech and offering quote-unquote corrections. Our panel.
Yo, the Donald Trump, the former president, is going to start doing React content, man? Bro, I'm down for it.
Is back now. David Chalian?
Donald Trump is fact checker. Who would have thought? You never.
I mean, his social media platform is called Truth Social.
But listen, it is noteworthy that this State of the Union address comes the day after Nikki Haley gets out of the race, and that the general election begins in earnest, and it is a new context. And obviously, this is a big, huge stage for the president. So you would expect his opponent to try and find a way into the news cycle. Donald Trump doesn't have a hard time finding his way into the news cycle. And so no doubt he will want to inject himself into all the commentary that comes out of the speech in some way. Whatever that may end up being, I think the reality is, and I think the Trump team knows this is Joe Biden's night, which may work for them if indeed his performance is not what people think it should be.
One of the ways that Donald Trump is trying to make his voice heard, that's, I think, the way that the Biden campaign put it today, is he's already goading Joe Biden on debates. And he said, and it's important for the good of the country that Joe Biden and I debate issues that are so vital to America and the American people. Therefore, I'm calling for debates anytime, anywhere, any place. The debates cannot be run by the corrupt DNC or their subsidiary Commission on Presidential Debates. I look forward to receiving a response. This is my favorite part of this. Thank you for your attention to this matter! Exclamation point.
He's still sending out the office memo. People are worried there won't be any debates, and he's saying he'll debate, but who knows? He also says he won't do it with the commission, which
it is really, really important that Biden not pull the "I'm not dignifying him with a debate." Because the entire criticism of Biden, or like the biggest criticism of Biden right now, is that he's too old. He doesn't have the mental fortitude. He can't keep up with things mentally, et cetera, et cetera. So like that needs to be squashed, or at least he needs to point out that Donald Trump is just as geriatric as him. Like that's all that needs to happen.
I think he actually wants to debate.
Right. I don't know, but
Well, the president's up for it. I mean,
Biden can handle himself in a debate like that. But I think David's right. I think what Trump says will get some attention tonight. But it's hard to break through the State of the Union, right? It's on all the networks and it's everywhere. And I think the people who've given the sometimes ill-fated response to the State of the Union have found out how difficult that is to counter the president. The whole it's just the scenario is so big, right?
but isn't it also another way of seeing the hold that the former president holds over the Republican Party? Because there are some things the president could say that would get acknowledgement from Republicans that may not be the case anymore. I mean, I'm just thinking about border security given my background, but there are measures in there that he will talk about that there was a time where Republicans would be on board with it.
He'll get mad at them if they clap at anything that he says.
Right.
That's a really good
support
point.
for NATO and
Yes.
the
Exactly.
Ukraine matter is
That's a
another
great
area
point.
that no
Yes.
doubt
Well, it's
Biden will draw the contract.
Come on, take it out.
A divide. So let's just shift gears slightly and talk a bit more about what Donald Trump has to do, if he tries to do it, to get those Nikki Haley voters back in his fold, looking ahead. One of the questions is about how the voters feel and whether or not those who voted for Nikki Haley were just trying to protest and then they'll come back into the fold, or whether they protested and they're like, never going to do it. Our colleagues went out and talked to some of those Haley voters in Virginia. They voted on Super Tuesday. Let's listen.
No question, Biden. We cannot have another 4 years of that man.
I'm not going to vote for either one. If she was on the no labels ticket, I would certainly vote for her.
My intention is to write her in at the end, and because I really cannot vote for her opponent.
I, at this point, can't answer that question. I think that this country can do better than the choice that we've been given.
Which leads me to a question that is more relevant than we have seen in many, many cycles, I think, since you and I really have been covering campaigns. And that is whether there is really a fertile ground for a third way. And Liz Cheney sent out this tweet. She said the GOP has chosen. They will nominate a man who attempted to overturn an election and seize power. We have 8 months to save our republic and ensure Donald Trump's never anywhere near the Oval Office again. Join me in the fight for our nation's freedom. I'm not suggesting that she is going to jump in and be that third way. Others are, but it's people like that who have megaphones, who don't want either candidate necessarily, who are trying to figure out what to do with this frustrated sector.
Yeah, on Liz Cheney specifically, I mean, watch this space, because she doesn't want Donald Trump. That's
Exactly.
what she really doesn't want.
Yeah.
And if she thinks the best way to not get Donald Trump is supporting Joe Biden, I would imagine you might see her on the convention stage in Chicago at a Biden
So
convention.
there's that dynamic, and then the other voters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt, Dana, that voters, I mean, you just heard some of them, would like an out here and like find a viable third party. And it's always been an attractive option. The issue is, of course, there's not a path really for that kind of candidate in our system to get to 270 electoral votes. I mean, Ross Perot got 19% of the vote. He got 0 electoral votes. So it is so difficult. And what it does, and this is why Democrats are so worried about this, the entrance of giving that option to people who don't want Biden and really don't want Trump, it lowers Trump's need number, his win number. It lowers it and makes Trump winning more attainable. That's what Democrats are going to try to convince the folks that are around no labels or people who may go support Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that they are handing the Oval Office to Donald Trump.
Real quick, Carl.
I mean, the cards are stacked against a third-party person. Those people are what this election is about. How do you get those people?
Yep.
And that's what Biden's going to have to try to do. I have a hard time seeing Trump getting those people, but another alternative could get their vote and make them feel better when they vote.
Let's discuss on this big day with former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent and former senior advisor to the Biden 2020 campaign, Alencia Johnson. And Alencia, one of the things Biden allies want is they want him to be a fighter. They want him really kind of going on the attack. How much of that are we going to see, do you think, tonight?
Yeah, I can definitely expect for him to go on the attack. Look, I remember when the special counsel's report came out and he was frustrated with what they said about him. That fiery response he gave to reporters, I think you will see a bit of that tonight with President Biden's performance. You'll also see him talking about some very critical issues. Reproductive freedom is probably going to be one of the top things that they talk about, from who the First Lady has in her box to the fact that even senators and representatives have guests from the different parts of the movement, from the president of Planned Parenthood and Reproductive Freedom for All. So he's going to hammer on those issues that relate to black voters, and we'll also probably hear him talking about what's happening with the Palestinian people.
Charlie, Speaker Johnson has asked Republicans to keep tonight polite. Obviously, President Biden drew plaudits last year when Republicans kind of got a little bit rowdy, and he responded to them in a way that shows.
Hey, Sondsol, just out of curiosity, how long has your family been in Texas, if you don't mind me asking? We've been here basically most of my life, so a pretty long time. Also, the editor is still signed in to my account. Yeah, I see it. Tron, I messaged you back on Discord, buddy.
That he was, at least in that
After
moment,
this, I'll
very
probably
sharp
look at it.
and very with it politically. How do you think Republicans are going to respond to the president tonight? Might we see another opportunity like that for President Biden?
Every Republican speaker has told his members to behave. Sometimes it works. They don't want any "you lie" moments. Johnson's going to sit up there with his best poker face and try not to express anything. But this is really hard for some of the members. It's like going to an arsonist convention and having wood and gasoline and say, hey, nobody can throw a match. Okay, somebody's just not going to resist. And so I always fear that somebody is going to, make some kind of outburst at an inappropriate time, and that's what they're trying to avoid.
To put that into context, I was there covering Congress when that you lie moment happened, and I ended up having to fly down on assignment to cover the congressman in his home district in South Carolina for that. It's almost quaint now, but I just wonder, the State of the Union, so often, and we make a big deal out of it. It is a big deal. It is this important moment, but it often doesn't move the needle a ton. I wonder, though, Charlie, if you think there is an opportunity for Biden to do that.
Well, look, these speeches usually have grown on too long. It's a smorgasbord of every idea they've ever had. They throw them in there, everything they've ever done.
Make sure you avoid pronouns and call my name out if something needs my attention. What does that mean? Avoid pronouns. Am I not allowed to refer to someone as he or she? I don't know what you mean by that.
But what will happen today, I suspect Biden will use this as an opportunity to confront Republicans on Ukraine funding. Bring that bill up tomorrow. Let's vote on that. He'll say, take up the bipartisan immigration bill that Senator Langford negotiated with Chris Murphy and put pressure on it. I think he will confront them there. And IVF is another area in women's health. He'll confront them there, and he's going to probably have to dance on some other issues. The economy, he's got to be careful on the economy because he's going to try to say how great it is when much of the public doesn't feel so good right now, particularly on inflation.
I don't know. Israel-Hamas war, economic populism, reproductive rights, prescription drug costs, and border security. Okay. Like instead of saying he, you say Trump, have more room to cut for clarity. Okay. I will do my best to keep that in mind as a very difficult thing to change your speech patterns for. You have to understand. A very difficult thing. But yeah, I'll do my best. All right, let me look at while we're still waiting for more people to get in here, let's look at some of these. Wait, you're applying as me on. What if we disagree and then I have to debate these people? Kick chat test. Oh shit. It shouldn't work. I don't know what the issue is. I have no clue why it's not showing up. But I'm trying to fix it. But I had to go live or else I wouldn't be able to stream at all today. So, yeah, I tried to fix it. I have no clue what the problem is. I reset it. I tried to make a new one. It's just, it ain't happening for some reason. Here, let me move OBS over there. Damn, these people really. One less tanky voter? I'm sorry. Tanky voter? Brother, choose one. These don't vote. One less tanky voter? I'm sorry. Tanky voter? True. Brother, choose one. Hey, that's super true, Tron. Let's continue pushing that narrative out there. It's definitely going to help me out.
Soldiers, our vets aren't being taken care of, but people that come into our country illegally are.
Wait, hold on. Maybe I wasn't even listening. What did he say?
Our soldiers, our vets aren't being taken care of, but people that come into our country illegally are.
Wait, hold on. Now, maybe I'm just making this up in my mind. I wonder, Trump cut VA benefits. Is that not true? Oh, wait, we want to take care of our veterans? President Trump's fiscal year 2019 budget impact on veterans? The president plans to cut $30 billion from disability benefits and employment initiatives, which provide career counseling and job training to disabled veterans entering the workforce. Investment, I don't know why that word's there. The VA will have to pay more for more expensive private nursing home care. Oh, yeah. I'm glad that we care so much about veterans so that we can kick out all the illegal immigrants while we're also not going to help our veterans.
And our soldiers.
And what were people saying? Trump can't cut VA benefits, Congress can. You should learn how the Constitution works. Wowee. Who would have thought? Who knew? Did you know is also the leader of his party and sets agenda, the policy agenda. Let's see if we can't piss one of these guys off enough. What does this mean? The president is the leader of his party and sets the policy agenda. And he also signs bills into law. Glad we all went to glad we all passed high school government 101. Kid not kin posting cringe. What the? Why is it so big? Sexual assault versus Israel case is, in my view, adequate to show genocidal intent and incitement of genocide on the behalf of the policymakers, heads of the IDF and Israeli officials. Heads of the IDF. Also, the military actions of Israel align with the intent and incitement described. Wait, what is... Oh, South Africa. I thought he was referencing the... Whether it can meet a legal standard as proof of intent is hard to say, as the standard for proving intent can be more or less strict. Legally speaking, it's hard to say, but after reading the evidence provided, I'm convinced that this constitutes genocide until convinced otherwise via counter to provided evidence. Their evidence was just a bunch of quote mining, getting more care. Wait, didn't this guy comment up here too? No? Okay, never mind. Hey, I'm glad you have such strong opinions. Wanna come on stream and talk about it, buddy? I don't know what he was trying to say. Okay. Well, we'll see if we can't pull a debate out of that. He says it's genocide regardless of the legal judgment until he's debated. Well, I'll do some research and then we'll come back to that. Okay? Cat, relax. I'm sure there's more evidence that after 9/11, America was more genocidal than Israel right now, because you can quote mine it all you want. 7 p.m. So in an hour it starts. Cool. We'll keep that open. It's not that hard. Most of the quotes are out of context. Yeah, but I don't know what he thinks is like the primo quotes that I would have to debunk, right? I don't know what the primo quotes are. So I assume that I would just have to... It would have to be one of those autistic debates where we go through each individual quote on the spot, look them up, try and find them. And it would be boring content. Like, even so, like, 1 second. Is my stream dead? Am I still live? Because the YouTube thing on my end is not looking good. Okay, we are live. Got it. You never stopped? Okay, the YouTube stream looked like it stopped for a second. Okay. Let's see what sort of things we have on the news tab. Shit, really?
TickTock influencers beware. Today, a House committee voted on a bipartisan bill that could effectively ban the app in the United States. If it gets passed by the entire House, then goes to the Senate, then the president signs it into law. The legislation would force ByteDance, that's the name of TikTok's parent company, to sever ties with its host country, China, or be banned from U.S. app stores. The lawmakers behind the bill say apps that are controlled by foreign adversaries such as China.
Oh, 1 second. The South Africa one is pure clip chimp. The South African will cite something saying he explicitly says they are going to ignore the rules of war, and then in the link they cite, the person says the opposite. He's right if you only read the South African words, but they are lying and cheating and manipulating every quote. I'm pretty sure there's more evidence after 9/11 that America. Okay, I didn't read those first ones. No, but our TikTok is exploding. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't know if there's someone in this space that has a functional TikTok or not. But I would be super curious to ask them what they do on TikTok to actually get views, because YouTube Shorts is popping off, but the TikTok just ain't. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
TikTok influencers beware. Today, a House committee voted on a bipartisan bill that could effectively ban the app in the United States if it gets passed by the entire House, then goes to.
Could ban TikTok if it doesn't sever ties to China. Okay, well, I guess there's a little bit of a stipulation on it. I'm a little bit like 50-50 on it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a little 50-50 on it. Don't know how I feel about the government like just straight up banning an app because of freedom of speech reasons, you know? Like, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but
to the Senate, then the president signs it into law. The legislation would force ByteDance, that's the name of TikTok's parent company, to sever ties with its host country, China, or be banned from U.S. app stores. The lawmakers behind the bill say apps that are controlled by foreign adversaries such as China collect way too much information on the Americans who use the apps, and pose security risks to the United States. Joining us now, Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher and Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. They're the co-authors of the bill. Mr. Chairman, let me start with you. There are more than 170 million TikTok users in the U.S. It's one of the most popular apps in the world. What do you say to them if the U.S. ends up banning TikTok? As I'm sure you've heard from a lot of them today, they are worried. They love TikTok.
Well, we hope that they will continue to be able to use the platform once TikTok makes the responsible decision to separate itself from ByteDance. TikTok can continue to exist in the United States as long as it's not effectively controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. That is the issue, and that will make for a better user experience. People won't have to worry about manipulation of algorithms. They won't have to worry about a hostile foreign adversary potentially manipulating the news that Americans consume. And I would say the pressure campaign that TikTok put in place today, where they forced a pop-up on the app that called members of Congress and also told a lie that we were forcing an outright ban, which this bill is not, proves the danger. They sort of prove the entire point. Imagine if those lies were allowed to spread on topics like our election or a foreign war. So that's what we're trying to guard against. And in our construct, users can continue to enjoy the app so long as we fix the ownership problem.
So,
man, you know what? It's actually, I know, all things considered, it's always a kind of weird thing to think that we're in a real moment of history, you know? But I really think that we are. I think that we're in a moment of history that is going to be unbelievably consequential with the kinds of things that we see with China, the kinds of things that we see with Russia. 17. Did I do the same amount here? 19. Oof. There we go. Get more farmland. All right. We're in a very consequential moment in history, I think, when the United States is possibly on its way out as the global dominant superpower, yada, 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 right? And we are witnessing almost in real time its efforts to stay in power and its efforts to, cut ties with China, to with Russia in a way that's not going to immediately cause a war between the two of us. Like, it's hard to say for sure how consequential, but it is something that we should keep in mind, because holy shit. Like, actually, holy shit. This is super kind of scary, is it not? The fact that the United States probably has the highest chance that it's had of having a major war in decades. So like having a major war like World War II, like a world war type thing. We actually are approaching that point. Anybody that says otherwise is super coping. It's not that the United States is looking for war. It's not that the United States is, the bad guys necessarily, right? But it is just where we're at, right? It is where we're at. There we go. And it's something that we should keep in mind when people start talking about isolationism, when people start talking about shit that, they want to, never not stay in the forever wars, blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah, war is bad. Everybody agrees that war is bad, but also we have to recognize that there are people who are worse, right? There are people who are worse in the world than the United States. And those actors are actively with us all the time. And nobody wants to call that out. Everyone just wants to call out the U.S. doing something bad. And so on this, right, we have China, who has TickTock, and it's arguably stealing Americans' information, stealing our information, our private, identities shit, our passwords and shit, collecting data on us to see, like if I was to make an actual guess, the types of information that they would be looking for would be shit that would be related to things that they could use for psychological warfare, or not necessarily. What's the new term, hybrid warfare, kind of like what Russia does with our elections and making everybody turn against each other and hate each other. China absolutely is already on that boat. And anything that we do to stop it looks bad on us. And there's just no way around that. And I don't know what a good answer to it would be. But just the very fact that no matter what we do on the TikTok question, right? The TTQ, right? Anything we do on that, we're going to look like we're unhinged. Oh, it's just like a kid's app, it's just a kid's app. Why is everyone freaking the out over a kids app? Well, it's because that kids app is being used for nefarious purposes, arguably, right? Cyber warfare, yeah. Well, cyber warfare would be more like hacking into our infrastructure in some way, shape, or form, right?
Congressman Krishnamurthy, if it's not an outright ban, what is it exactly, and what would happen? Would the app disappear from people's phones, or would it just stop being sold by Apple, et cetera?
Well, it's a forced sale. That's what, that's what's happened in the past. By the way, another app, a popular app called Grindr, was once purchased by the Chinese, and basically the American federal government forced the sale of that particular app because, again, the CCP had access to very sensitive data about government officials and military officials. And this is a much bigger problem with regard to TikTok. TikTok is owned by ByteDance. The editor-in-chief of ByteDance is himself the secretary of the very Chinese Communist Party cell embedded in the leadership of ByteDance. And his duty, according to him, is to make sure that TikTok and other products abide by correct political direction. And so that's why we took this action today. The House Energy and Commerce Committee voted 50-0 unanimously. That has not happened with regard to any bill affecting this particular platform. And now we look forward to its passage in the House.
So, Mr. Chairman, there's a First Amendment fight over this as well. The ACLU says that your legislation is a violation of free speech rights. The senior policy counsel at the organization says, quote, just because the bill sponsors claim that banning TikTok isn't about suppressing speech, there's no denying that it would do just that. We strongly urge legislators to vote no on this unconstitutional bill, unquote.
Well, can they just not? Can they just like transfer? Well, I guess if it's ByteDance's property, they wouldn't want to. I guess there would have to be something that would be someone would make a replacement eventually for it, right? Like almost certainly. Okay, I don't know why I can't maintain metal in this game. Like eventually someone's going to get if TikTok gets banned, I'm not sure, or I'm not like 1000% sold on the freedom of speech aspect. It's just where my mind goes immediately, right? Because the freedom of speech aspect, if they either sell it to a U.S. company or they either sell it to a U.S. company or they ban it, and then another like TikTok clone comes out, like that would be not suppressing freedom of speech. It would be exactly what the lawmakers are saying it is, right? Like, hey, we don't want to infringe on your freedom of speech. However, we do also have to maintain security, right? And this is a security risk. We don't care about, the fact that there are communists on TikTok. There are communists on every website. We're not trying to ban Twitter. We're not trying to ban Twitch. We're not trying to ban YouTube, right? It's not about social media and freedom of speech. It's about the security risk. I'm really curious to see if this will go through.
Do you think that the national security threat outweighs whatever free speech issues there are out there?
Well, to be clear, I don't think our bill endangers any First Amendment issues at all. We're talking about foreign ownership and control of an app. And once that foreign ownership is addressed, not only will people be able to continue to say whatever they want on the app, you'll also have freedom of thought, freedom from fear that your thought might be manipulated because of the opaque algorithm. And for that illogical claim that TikTok is making to be true, then previous incidents where we've addressed ownership, for example, in the antitrust paradigm, would have had a massive First Amendment impact. The breakup of Bell in 1982 would have been one of the biggest First Amendment issues in American history, but of course,
that's a fair
it wasn't.
argument.
So we've carefully worked on this.
If you don't know about Bell, there was one phone company. There was one phone company for everyone, and it was the Bell company. And so they had to break it up into the companies that we know today, I believe. I believe it turned into things like AT&T and shit like that, right? Like that's where modern phone companies come from. Has there ever been a company in U.S. history that's been banned because of foreign ownership?
This bill for 6 months. We've worked with the White House to get technical assistance. We are very confident that this is a construct that avoids any issue like a bill of attainder, does not infringe on freedom of speech. It's about foreign adversary control of the news and the ability to spy on Americans.
It's the same principle. Look, the First Amendment does not protect espionage. It does not protect the right to harm American national security. It's the same reason why, under our laws, we prevent a certain portion of ownership of broadcast networks and certain media outlets. It's the same reason why, for instance, a bookstore needs to comply with other rules, even though it sells books and protected First Amendment expression. And so that is what is at issue here. We don't want to censor any type of content. This is not about a content-specific law. This is about the manner in which the CCP controls ByteDance, the parent of the platform at issue.
All right, Chairman Mike Gallagher and Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, the ranking Democrat on the special committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Thank you so much. Appreciate your taking the time to talk to us today.
Hey, thank you so much.
Hey, streamer, what would be your rebuttal to the argument, why are you against TikTok stealing data when U.S. companies do it and sell it to different groups? The argument that comes to my mind immediately would be, well, those are companies that are selling information to other American companies and can't be used against us for national security purposes. Like that's the reason, right? It has very little to do with the fact that, oh no, it's just a foreign company, because, companies in like England and Germany and our allied countries also do this probably, right? But the problem is that this is a hostile nation that is actively, along with Russia, with our institutions, right? Okay, what is this right here? Damn it, why is it opening up on that tab or in that window? Okay, as soon as more people come through, because we only have, actually, it says that we have 0 viewers on YouTube, but that's obviously not true. I'm just so, I don't want to like do this until there's one segment I want to do before the State of the Union, because there was some interesting news that came out, but okay, let me see what this is. Oh, let's read the caption first. Russian propagandists debate which cities should be nuked first in the event of a war with NATO. This is, of course, blustering and attempts to intimidate NATO members. All of Putin's efforts to intimidate have only strengthened NATO. That is true.
Я никак не могу решить. Париж, Марсель. Вот что касается наших. Ну, Бухарест само собой, а вот потом Париж, Марсель, Лион.
Хороший город.
Лион.
Там праздник огня есть, да.
Лион, да. И в Германии надо за Таурус, вот что уничтожить? Гамбург, да. Вот Гамбург.
Это Кирмиш, Гархен, где вы учились?
Гармиш-Партен Кирмиш. Ну, он маленький там. Он не стоит, да, то есть Гамбург. Там это дорого.
Или может Мюнхен,
ракеты дороже стоят.
Нет,
просто может провести голосование в аудиториях, какие города им не жалко, чтобы они понимали, к чему приведут идиоты, возглавляющие эти страны.
They got a little taste of victory, and now they're super confident. What an intellectual debate. Yeah, true. The second is from Putin's state address. What is the second? Oh, hello. This? What do you mean the second one? Okay, I see. I thought that was all one long link.
Я хочу еще раз все-таки подчеркнуть это. Я говорил, но мне очень бы хотелось, чтобы вы меня услышали.
Also, just so you guys know, whenever a leader or someone in a country starts talking about using nukes, right? This is only Russia that does this, okay? But whenever someone reminds other countries, quote unquote, that they have nukes and they're willing to use them, yeah, our countries know, our governments know, our militaries know. They're not caught by surprise whenever they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we have nukes here and we're like, they can reach over here in 3 minutes, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, everyone knows that. The only reason that they do it, use your brain. If the governments already know it, who are they talking to? They're talking to us. They're talking to the civilians inside of those countries to scare us into not supporting any extra aid for Ukraine, into not helping them out, into, basically letting them do whatever they want. Russia's not going to use nukes unless someone's on the doorstep of, I almost said Stalingrad, unless someone is on the doorsteps of Moscow. Nukes are never going to be shot. There is no reason for them to use nukes. It would be better for them to lose the Ukraine war than to use a nuke to win it. There is 0% chance. Prigozhin was on the doorstep? Okay, yeah. What are they going to nuke? Their grasslands outside of Moscow? Like, no. There's just like 0%, or like an infinitesimal less than 1% chance, to where we might as well just say it's 0%. Someone would have to be drunk, high, schizophrenic, and bipolar, kill everyone else in the room, and then like launch the nukes themselves in the delirium for that to happen. It's just not going to.
Все-таки в конце концов. И донесли это до своих читателей, зрителей и пользователей в интернете. Но вы понимаете или нет, что если Украина будет в НАТО и военным путем будет возвращать себе Крым, европейские страны автоматически будут втянуты в военный конфликт.
It's only a defense pact. If they decide to go in and start trying to get Crimea, if they end up winning and they, join NATO, if they attack you, guess what? It's not Article. You can't do Article 5.
Конфликт с Россией. Конечно, потенциал объединенной организации НАТО и России несопоставим. Мы понимаем. Но мы также и понимаем, что Россия одна из ведущих ядерных держав. По некоторым компонентам, по современности даже.
God, they really rely so heavily on the fact that, the previous government of Russia, the previous government was a big dick. And now we have these guys who have the vestiges of what the USSR had. And they're still like, oh yeah, we'll blow everyone up, man. We'll blow everyone up, man. Like, yeah, sure you will, man.
Многих опережает. Победителей не будет. И вы окажетесь втянутыми в этот конфликт помимо своей воли. И вы даже не успеете глазом моргнуть, когда будете исполнять пункт 5 Римского договора. Господин президент, конечно, не хочет этого развития. И я не хочу. И я не хочу. Поэтому он здесь и находится.
Okay. We'll get to this one in a minute. Okay. We'll get to this one in a minute. This one's good. Have I seen this classic clip?
Russian President Vladimir Putin has disclosed details of Russia's annexation of Crimea in a new documentary which will be broadcast on Russian television. Putin said the plan was hatched as former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych fled to Russia. In a trailer of the film, produced by Russian state TV Rossiya 1, Putin says he tasked the Russian special forces with saving Yanukovych's life. Putin said, quote, I invited the chiefs of our special services, the Ministry of Defense to the Kremlin, tasked them with saving the Ukrainian president's life. He simply might have been eliminated.
Wait, hold on. Why do people still push the line that Russia didn't invade Crimea? If he's like literally saying, yeah, we did. Yeah, I ordered that.
Quote, I invited the chiefs of our special services, the Ministry of Defense to the Kremlin, tasked them with saving the Ukrainian president's life. He simply might have been eliminated. Putin described an all-night meeting in which he and his top advisors discussed the situation in Ukraine and concluded that they needed to return Crimea to Russia. Unmarked soldiers began appearing in Crimea in late February of 2014. At first, the unknown forces stormed the regional parliament building and installed new authorities. The Little Green Men, as they were referred to by locals, also stationed themselves near Ukrainian military installations throughout the peninsula. The Kremlin initially denied having anything to do with the events in Crimea, although Putin would later admit that he indeed sent Russian soldiers into Crimea ahead of the annexation. Since Russia seized control of the peninsula, it has faced sanctions from the United States and Europe over what they have called a breach of international law.
I'm gonna save this video. Why the does anyone still argue about this? Uh-oh, we have 5 more notifications. Go on with you tomorrow. Someone's taking the bait for a debate. I reported your misinformation? What is the misinformation? What is it that you linked, Tron? Maybe don't call it bait. Okay. If he's watching right now, I'm not... Okay. What are they saying? Like how you just gloss over the fact you sent a false link? It's veterans.senate.gov. How is it a false link? It's a .gov site. I don't want it to accidentally. If you want to hop on and explain to me how I'm wrong, I'm live right now. How the is it a false link? It's a PDF from veterans.senate.gov. What a thing to say. And then also, I reported your misinformation. Cool. Oh man, should I just like invite every single one of these dumb onto my stream right now? How are these people like this? Do we have to do the I'm just a bill? This is in the public domain now, right?
Yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Oh, someday at least I hope and pray that I decided they wanted a law passed, so they decided to make me a law. I'm just a bill, yes, while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be a law. I hope and
Congress
I hope they
committee.
decide to report on me. stack I'm gonna live. Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Then I go to the Senate and the whole thing starts all over again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'm just a bill. Yes.
Go to the Senate, and then what happens?
To sign. And if he signs, I am still just a bill.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be allowed, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you become a law. It's not easy to become a law, is it?
No, but how I hope and pray.
So the president has to sign a law. So when the veterans.senate.gov, whichever, like, if this is like the Veterans Caucus or whatever, like, did they just like lie? Or was Schoolhouse Rock lying back in the 70s? Or who is lying here? Am I lying? Where is the lie? I found it. Save this one as well.
Николай, вы в Крыму-то когда были?
Я там был 16 марта на референдуме.
Ага, пожалуйста. А я был в Крыму с 21 февраля. И вы знаете, то, что вы мне рассказываете, ну вот просто абсолютная чушь. Далее, я не увидел, к сожалению, никакой поддержки органов государственной власти в Симферополе, где я конкретно находился. Не увидел. Не было ее. Депутатов собирали ополченцы, чтобы загнать их в зал, чтобы они приняли. Чего уж там говорить-то. Да, я был одним из командиров этих ополченцев. Я это все видел изнутри, собственными глазами.
I do gotta love how honest they are. What the Save it to watch later so I can pull it up if I need to. I don't know. Maybe I actually no. I know that I'm right, and that these people are just in such an unbelievable cult that they'll deny basic civic lessons that they learned in high school. A bill goes into the Congress, then it goes to the Senate, then it goes to the president. It has to be passed 3 times in order for it to be solidified into law. Unless it's from a federal agency. Like, where do these people get off? Acting so smug. Where do these people get off? Being so wrong. And then talking down to me over shit that I feel like I knew this even before high school. Tron, they are requesting that you make the Russia stuff into a segment. Jesus Christ. I just don't understand. I don't understand. I cannot, for the life of me, understand. No, I understand it. It's because everybody thinks that they know more than they do know. And I know enough to where I know what I don't know and I do know what I do know. There are very few unknown unknowns to me, right? Like there are... this isn't like a novel thing, right? Like we have things that we know, right? These are known knowns. There are things that we don't know, but we know that it is out there, right? So like, I don't know how quantum physics works, but I know that it is a thing. So this would be something that would be a known unknown. But there are some things that are out there that I don't know about, and I don't understand anything about them. So those things would be in the category of known or unknown unknowns. If you want to get like super philosophical, I'm sure that we could also construct like an unknown known, right? So this might be something like an unknown known might be something like something about your psychology that you practice every day but don't realize it, but you have some sort of like intrinsic knowledge as a result of being a human being, right? So for me, when it comes to like the known knowns, I'm pretty confident on most of the things that I know about that I could know about, right? Or the things that the topics that I know about and that I also understand what's going on inside of them, right? There are a load of known unknowns. Like, I don't know a lot about polling. I don't know a lot about quantum physics. I don't know a lot about a lot of things. But this bubble right here for me, right? I think I kind of understand. Here, let's go back. So I feel like for a normal person, right, their real unknown or known unknowns is like this big, right? This is like the average person's known unknowns. But for some reason, there is a huge amount of people out there. There's a huge number of people out there that think theirs is like only this big. Like this is all of the knowledge in the universe that people know about, but they don't understand like how the mechanisms work or anything like that. But people really think it's only this big. And I don't know if it is just something that I have learned as a result of streaming. I don't know if it's something that I've learned as a result of school, or maybe it's just a better thought process that I have. But I do look at all of the knowledge out there as this big bubble. I don't know, and I guess like I couldn't know until pressed on something. But I don't know if there are any known unknowns out there that I would put into my known concepts. It's just like this is like a really like long and roundabout way of talking about like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Let's see if any of these dumb bastards responded. They did. You're just incapable of acknowledging it. Glad you can't show my Dunning-Krugerness. Like, what do you even say? You haven't said anything at all. You haven't said anything else except for nuh-uh. I posted proof. You're just saying nuh-uh. Okay, I need to not let these people drag down my entire stream for the rest of the day.
Hey, I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
Oh, that's just a bill.
Yes, I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. But I hope to be a law someday.
All in favor of the bill pushed by the fire extinguisher lobby to make children's toys flammable? All against? Yay! Kid.
Oh. Let's go see some of the sights.
That was good. Okay. We got 15 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and do the segment that I really want to look at, because I haven't read this yet, okay? I have not read this yet, but years ago, on my channel, if we go to my channel, where's view my channel? We scroll way down. Let's see if we can find it. Dan Rodimer. Dan Rodimer. Big Dan Rodimer did a 30-minute segment
Democrats
on
in
this.
Congress are like the Astros, cheating their way to the top.
Oh, shit! Oh, he's talking shit about Texas now!
Okay, let's just skip to the...
Let's go, boys!
Do we have to watch this in 360p? Thank you. Holy shit.
We call that bull Nancy Pelosi. It's the beast.
Now that's Texas tough, baby. 2 out of 3 dirty jobs. We call that bull Nancy Pelosi.
So this is just to give reference to the fact that I've looked at this guy before. This guy right here hops state to state to state to state, trying to find a constituency that will vote him into Congress, and he loses every time. This was his ad for Texas when he was running, I think, in Dallas or Fort Worth County or something like that for Congress. But before that, he lived in Nevada, and that's where that first clip came from. This clip right here was him running, no cowboy hat, not wearing the cowboy boots, because he's running in Las Vegas. And he was there I think he was in the, what do you call it? The Pawn Stars pawn shop and all that shit. So he's kind of just like a wannabe career politician. but it's always just been wannabe. Fast forward, how many years? 2 years later. Former congressional candidate and pro wrestler arrested in Vegas, murder of man who was wrongfully imprisoned for cold case killing. Now, because of the lack of commas, I'm trying to figure out what this means. He was arrested in Vegas murder of a man who was wrongly imprisoned for cold case killing. So I just want to watch the video and read through the article and see where Big Dan Rodimer is today.
Chris.
How you doing, man?
Thank you so much
no problem.
for doing
Thank you.
this.
Thank you
It's
for
great
doing
meeting
this.
you.
Good to meet you.
It seems like something you probably
Oh, you get accustomed
keep
to it.
hearing. Really?
Yeah, but you get accustomed to it. It's an amazing, like I say, it's an amazing thing how accustomed you get to life in prison. I mean, it's sad to say, but you do.
This is it. This is not what I expected at all.
Can't speed it up.
This is home.
Yeah.
Away from home.
So how many other people are in here with you?
54, 56 other people. So it's crowded.
Yeah.
Cramped. It sucks. I mean, you do the best that you can.
Yeah.
You know, with everything that you have. This is pretty much my home. It's not enjoyable to be in 3 years of my sentence.
What was that like? The setup wasn't like this.
No. Years. I've been in this unit since November of last year, so what, 4 months?
When you first came to prison, the setup wasn't like this.
No. As soon as I came to prison, I went to the maximum security here in Idaho for the first 3 years of my sentence.
What was that like?
Scary to actually be around killers, rapists, people that beat people up and stuff like that.
Is there anything about this experience that has made you a better man?
I've had to grow up. Growing up in here, you realize that what you can or cannot handle.
Okay, what does this have to... Is this the guy that got murked? A retired professional wrestler and former congressional candidate surrendered to police in Nevada on Wednesday after a warrant was issued for his arrest in the killing of a man who himself was acquitted of murder. Let's see, is this the same guy? Okay, that was the guy, and he's dead now because of Dan Rodimer, allegedly. The Las Vegas Police Department said earlier in the day that a warrant had been issued for the arrest of 45-year-old Daniel Rodimer on the charge of an open murder and the death of Chris Tapp, who previously served 2 decades in prison for a murder he did not commit. Tapp, 47, was treated on October 29th by medical personnel responding to a call for help after he was found at the hotel and taken to a hospital where he later died. Rodimer's Las Vegas lawyers, David Chesnoff and Richard Schoenfeld, said in a statement emailed to the Associated Press that Rodimer was voluntarily surrendering to authorities and will post a court-ordered bail. He intends on vigorously contesting the allegation that asked that the presumption of innocence guaranteed all Americans be respected, they said. Police said detectives opened a suspicious death investigation after they received new information on November 22nd about the injuries Tapp had suffered as a result of a proposed accident. Through the course of the suspicious death investigation, detectives have learned Tapp was in an altercation inside a room at the resort before being located and transported to the hospital. Ruled it a homicide as a result of blunt force trauma to the head. Rodimer allegedly became upset after Tapp offered Rodimer's stepdaughter cocaine. A witness then heard Rodimer say, "If you ever talk to my daughter again, I'll kill you," document said. Immediately after hearing Dan say this to Christopher, the witness heard 2 loud banging noises. KLAS TV reported that investigators also obtained text messages between Rodimer and his wife, Sarah Rodimer, who we also looked at in that coverage, where Sarah Rodimer said, "I watched you nearly murder someone, and I had to take your hands off from his neck as he laid there, and you ran away, and I spent the next 2 hours trying to take care of him. Nobody should have to watch their husband murder somebody." Jesus Christ. Tapp and Rodimer knew each other through the classic car and racing circuit, a family attorney told the TV station. He lost as a Republican to a Democrat. Reported that former President Donald Trump had endorsed Rodimer before the 2020 election, tweeting, "Dan Rodimer will be an incredible congressman for Nevada. A former professional wrestler, he will fight for lower taxes, better education, and more jobs, and he will always support our brave law enforcement." Why is there so many capitalized random letters? Okay. Rodimer later moved to Texas, where he was among 23 candidates who ran in a special congressional election in 2021 to fill the seat of Republican Ron Wright, who was the first member of Congress to die after contracting COVID-19. He finished in the middle of the pack, getting less than 3% of the vote. Tapp served 2 decades in prison for a crime he did not commit. According to the Innocence Project, Tapp was charged and convicted in the 1996 rape and murder of 18-year-old Angie Dodge, despite being excluded by DNA evidence. In 2019, Tapp's murder conviction was vacated. Jesus Christ. So his wife's text, I watched you nearly murder someone and I had to take your hands off his neck as he laid there and you ran away, and I spent the next 2 hours trying to take care of him. Oh man, I wish there was so much more information on this, dude. I wish there was so much more information on this. This is crazy. Biden W. President Biden will propose a new $5,000 tax credit per year for first-time home buyers, and a year credit of up to $10,000 for families who sell their starter homes. This is significant news that will make buying a home more affordable for ordinary Americans. Damn. Where are we? 10 minutes? 8 minutes and 30 seconds. Got it. Stolen. Wrongfully committed and then killed by a living meme. Jesus Christ, dude. He probably thought he was going to die in prison from some of those dudes that he had to live around, but nope. It was just the, wait, why are there 9+ notifications now? Hi, Cat. Oh, okay. Refresh. Hi, Waffles. Hi, Cat. You want to sit in my lap? All right. There you go. All righty. What else do we have here? News. Uh-oh, they responded. No, they didn't? Okay, they haven't responded. Why does it keep on giving me notifications? This will be the ugliest campaign in history. Viktor Orban at Mar-a-Lago? Cool. What a great dude. We'll watch that one. We'll probably only have time to watch this one.
Ron Klain is the former chief of staff to President Biden. He was with the administration across those first 2 years. He was the president's right-hand person. He is someone who had the ultimate power in Washington, the power to control, schedule, and shape everything going into the Oval Office. Not really an exaggeration. Thanks for making time.
Thanks for having me, Ari. It's a big night.
You get the first swing here. I went through kind of what we're hearing. One excerpt. What's going to happen?
Well, so as you kind of alluded to, this is to public policy what the Super Bowl is to football. There are some people who watch the NFL every weekend. There's some people who watch the beat every night. But millions of people who don't watch football watch the Super Bowl. And millions of people who don't watch cable news watch the State of the Union. Yep. It's the president's chance to talk directly to voters, talk directly to the American people, and lay out his agenda for what he would do, what he wants to do this year and in 4 more years if he got reelected. I think that's very important. I think people want to hear him be forward-looking and lay out new things that he's going to do. The president will talk about his accomplishments, of course, talk about the State of the Union. That's what the address is. But what people really want to hear is what's next. There's a reason why when you go to the movies, they show you the coming attractions. You know, that's what people want to see, what's coming up next. And I think that's important for the president to do that tonight in some key policy areas.
Let's talk pros and cons. Yeah. A big con has been the age issue has sort of metastasized, maybe unfairly, maybe because of the media, but it's not just the traditional press. On the internet, if you look around, you go on TickTok, a lot of people talking about this, and it applies, as I mentioned, fairly to both candidates. That is a con. I'm wondering if you think that's something he has to somehow implicitly or explicitly address tonight. On the pro side, it bears repeating. You couldn't have scheduled a better market close. It seems like when he says tonight, hey, Main Street jobs and Wall Street markets and investment in this country are on the up, who can factually disagree with that?
Well, some people disagree unfactually, but that's not really, the point is the president will get to make his case tonight. And I think part of it will be about that, no question, but part of it will be about what he wants to do now going forward to make lives better. We know that not everyone, as you said, not everyone benefits from the Wall Street close, and some people on Main Street are still feeling squeezed. So the president will talk tonight about what he's going to do to bring costs down, healthcare costs specifically, broader consumer costs also. And he's also going to talk about housing tonight, and a new proposal to give a tax credit to first-time home buyers to make housing more affordable for a lot of young people who haven't been able to buy their first house, and a tax credit to encourage people to sell their starter homes. There's more supply of homes. So we know housing is a big problem in the country, and instead of just complaining about it, Joe Biden's going to make clear his proposals to do something about it tonight.
You didn't mention the age thing that I brought up. Do you think that he talks about not only the State of the Union, but the state of Biden?
What we know is when voters actually see the president in these big moments, they tend to grow in their confidence in him. We had that last year. We had a lot of age questions going into the State of the Union last year. It was my second to last day at the White House. President went out there. He gave a great speech. You saw that engagement he had with Republicans. People left there saying, hey, that's a vigorous president. So I think the president will address it by addressing the country, about the problems of the country. People want to see, the question is too old for what? What people want to see is he has the vigor and the plans to address the country's problems. I'm sure they'll see that tonight.
And there's a bit of a passing reference to it in one of the other excerpts. And again, this is just one of these traditions. You know, so much has changed, Ron, in our time. Some things are the same. They give us these quotes, and I have to sort of do this presidential reading. I'm not going to try to do it I'm not going to do an impression. But he says, quote, "My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on the core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality. Now, some other people, my age, see a different story, an American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution. That's not me." You know him so well. What's he saying there?
Well, I think it's a very good capturing of his core philosophy. The president is an optimist. He believes in hope. He believes in this country. He thinks America is a great country. We don't have to make it great. It is great, and it's getting greater all the time.
Did you read my research that I did? He increased in some ways, but also cut job programs. Some of the ways it went up was because he let people go out of network, so that increased the cost of the VA. So spending did go up, but the amount of care stayed the same or even decreased. I guess we'll have to look more into it.
The time, and you're hearing him talk about his values and what he stands for, what he believes in, and obviously there's a contrast there, an implied contrast to President Trump.
What should people know about him that you know that not everyone does?
What I can tell you is he is vigorous, he is mentally acute, he is great in meetings in the White House, asks hard questions, insists on getting the details and digging into the answers. And I think you'll see the president lead in that way tonight at the State of the Union, and you'll continue to try to deliver for the American people.
Do you think it comes across in these settings that he cares? I mean, we're going to have these debates the whole year.
Yeah, of course.
I've covered a lot of people. I've seen some where you get the feeling that they're just showing up, or they're there for the glory or the perks. Does he use tonight to also show, hey, I care a lot about this. That's why I'm running again?
Yeah, I think that will be part of the message tonight, that the president, grew up in Scranton, didn't have any privilege in his upbringing, and, understands what a lot of the people in the country are still going to. We had a catastrophe in the economy in 2019 and 2020. He's been bringing it back since then, 14 million new jobs, but there are a lot of people who are still hurting. You'll hear the president talk about them tonight, what he's going to do to try to make their lives better.
Let's watch the State of the Union. Waiting for C-SPAN to go live. Let's see here. Okay.
It's been over a day now, and there's still no word on.
We will watch a meme while we wait for the State of the Union.
What happened to James Somerton? Bomber Guy also has not responded to the situation as it's been unfolding. Some people have speculated that he may still be alive because comments left on his YouTube channel are actively getting deleted. However, that may not be true, as he said that he gave control of his YouTube channel to his editor so that the final round of videos that were in production could be put out, and that the editor could still put those videos on his resume. As all of the information hasn't come out yet, we can only speculate on what actually happened, but given the fact that Bomber Guy hasn't made any sort of statement yet, I'm going to assume that he's taking this situation as seriously as he should. Other people are taking the situation and are being incredibly cynical and manipulative and trying to pin the blame onto other people, such as Bomber Guy and also Vosh. And again, we don't actually know whether or not James Somerton is even alive right now. This post on Twitter from Vito Comedy reads the following. Last week, James Somerton posted an apology video telling viewers he felt on the verge of. In a response video with over 150,000 views, Vosh attacked Somerton, accusing him of weaponizing the threat of self-harm for sympathy. Yesterday, Somerton took his own life, and he included this clip.
This content warning feels manipulative. It is. You would otherwise put it at the 28-minute mark.
This is why.
Now, the speech comes during an election year where President Biden is fighting for a second term in the White House.
Here we go.
It's likely to be a rematch of the 2020 race. Tonight's speech isn't just about his policy agenda, but it's also him making a case to the voters in prime time. Now, following the president's speech, first-term Alabama Senator Katie Britt will be delivering the Republican response. And after the president's speech and the GOP response, it's your turn. We'll want to hear from you. How would you describe the State of the Union? What resonated with you in President Biden's speech and the Republican response? We'll listen to your voices and messages via phone and social media, live here on C-SPAN, cspan.org, and on our free C-SPAN Now app. Well, good evening, and thanks for joining C-SPAN for this evening's State of the Union address. In just a few minutes, President and Mrs. Biden will be leaving the White House to drive the 16 blocks up to the Capitol.
Is that starting
now?
now?
We'll be able to watch that. We'll also see the Senate gather as a body on their half of the Capitol and walk over to the House side where the State of the Union is held. We'll be able to see that as well. Right outside the House chamber is Statuary Hall. And joining us there, along with the rest of the media, is Catherine Tully McManus of Politico. Catherine, the State of the Union has really become quite an event here in Washington, hasn't it?
Absolutely. The Capitol is already buzzing. The president isn't even here yet. The Capitol's packed with guests, lawmakers, all
If
preparing.
you die, I need
for
control of the channel. Yeah, I'll get right on that. Okay, we'll keep watching the Keffels thing for right now. But, okay, so let's go back to right here.
We don't actually know whether or not James Somerton is even alive right now. This post on Twitter from Vito Comedy reads the following. Last week, James Somerton posted an apology video telling viewers he felt on the verge of. In a response video with over 150,000 views, Vosh attacked Somerton, accusing him of weaponizing the threat of self-harm for sympathy. Yesterday, Somerton took his own life, and he included this clip.
This content warning feels manipulative. It is. You would otherwise...
Yeah, this is what I was going to say. This is why you should never, ever, ever, ever comment on some shit without having all of the information or without letting the story play out. Because content warning, discussion of self-harm, right? For lefties, these content warnings, these trigger warnings, et cetera, they're a big deal. And you make the argument for them and why they're good all the time. But this is manipulative. Unless he actually kills himself. In which case, now you look like a total piece of shit and part of the reason why that person probably killed themselves. This is why I haven't commented much on the James Somerton issue, right? Like, there are two possibilities. One, he made up the self-harm stuff and he faked the suicide so that he could just, get pity and have a way out, right? Have a way out where everyone now feels sympathetic for him and his name is going to be dragged all over the place and he can go on and live the rest of his life in obscurity, right? Like, that's one possibility, right? Another possibility is he puts a shotgun in his mouth and gives himself a 12-gauge mouthwash. Like, there are two possibilities here. Right? But you don't know. You don't know until the information comes out. So why would you put yourself in a position to get shit on like Vosh is? That's why I haven't commented on it. Because I'm going to have different takes depending on what happens.
Just put it at the 28-minute mark. He did this in
True
his
Tron.
last video, which he deleted. I only saw the first minute of it, and it was immediately him doing the YouTuber apology, like, I'm so sad, like, self-harm, I just came back from the hospital thing. Like, he's 100% weaponizing it. I expect nothing but dishonesty from him.
The same situation of trying to pin what happened to James Somerton onto other people was happening in other corners of the internet as well, with Peter Coffin getting roasted by Hank Green of all people, which I absolutely did not expect. Now, if you don't know who Peter Coffin is, he is a rather peculiar character on the internet. He got his start by...
I met him. I met Peter Coffin, and it was such an interesting conversation. Because he's friends with the infrared guy, and I wanted to ask him about, like, you guys both have, like, the whole patriotic socialism thing going on, right? Like, what do you think of him as, like, your, I guess, political ally or whatever, right? And he kind of half disavowed Haas, and then also said, like, as long as he's not doing anything like that goes against my principles, then I guess I'm fine. It's just I don't do what he does, right? I also felt bad for him because everyone that was around me wanted to, like, IRL debate bro him. And I was just like, man, I'm just so curious about like some of the things that you've said and some of the people that you associate yourself with. But man, that poor guy, poor person.
Kicking himself in the balls on national television. No, I'm not kidding. This is an actual thing that happened.
Please welcome
That's
the groin
right.
kicker himself, Peter Coffin.
I forgot about this.
Okay, come on, Peter, let me see.
All right, here we go.
He also had a cameo in The Annoying Orange.
Man, it just goes to show you. You never know when your time's
There's a lot. There's a lot about Peter Coffin. I'm not going to go into
I didn't know about
all of the ins and
Annoying
outs
Orange
of
thing.
Peter Coffin today. But he decided to weigh in on this entire situation. So Peter Coffin tweeted out a post from the H-Bomber Guy subreddit where people were discussing how they genuinely
I thought this was H-Bomb, or this was Peter Coffin saying this.
hope that if the situation comes to the worst and James Somerton is no longer alive, that it won't have a huge impact on H-Bomber Guy's mental health. And honestly, it absolutely will. This is a terrible situation to be in, and I do not envy that man in the slightest. So Peter Coffin commented on it saying, "This is the most insane shit anyone has ever written. This does not even mention that James Somerton may be dead." A commenter replied, "It's because people are actively attacking and blaming H-Bomber Guy as if he killed James when there was ultimately nothing he did wrong. You cannot blame someone for someone else's suicide."
That's where I'm kind of at. I'm like 50-50 on it. So on one hand, H-Bomber Guy did this video. He basically ruins this other guy, and everything there is totally kosher. However, harassment afterwards, if the guy like posted some of the harassment, I haven't seen it, but the culture of harassment that is in left-leaning circles is insane. So I don't know if you can put it at H-Bomber Guy's feet or not. I'd have to think about that or have someone convince me.
Their mental state is their responsibility, and all he did was discuss his plagiarism, to which Peter Coffin responds, "If he is dead, H-Bomb absolutely led the charge in killing him," which led Hank Green to weigh in saying, "Disgusting tweet, my dude." Because let's be honest here, blaming anyone else for this situation is disgusting. James Somerton legitimately did very terrible things. He stole from other people, and he made a career off of stealing from other people. Exposing to the world that his career was based off of theft does not warrant taking your own life. And I really hope that this situation isn't true. I hope for his own sake that he didn't go through with it, or that this was some sort of publicity stunt. But trying to blame the situation on other people is disgusting. And the same can be said for Vosh in this circumstance. Personally, when I see people saying that they have made attempts to harm themselves, my first instinct isn't to jump and say, "Oh, they're just making this up for attention. They're just trying to do a sympathy grab." Because you run the risk where these clips being used to portray you as an absolute monster if the situation turns out to be true and they are actually at risk of hurting themselves. But that said, I don't think that Vosh is responsible for this either, especially because he is only one of dozens and dozens of creators who were commenting on the situation in the first place. And I think if anything, we should be talking about the entire landscape of YouTube and how it incentivizes these kinds of dogpiles to happen, regardless if the people on the receiving end of these dogpiles even deserve it or not. I'll keep you all up to date as the situation unfolds. I'm following this really closely, and I really hope that we get some answers.
Interesting. Are we going? Is Biden speaking
Went
yet?
for about 61, 62 minutes in his speeches. Donald Trump averaged 79 minutes and 42 seconds, and Joe Biden's average now is 63 minutes and 29 seconds. Want to remind you that you can join our conversation tonight and comment on the State of the Union speech anytime on Facebook and on X. Just remember,
on Facebook and on X
is our handle for those. And if you're away from your...
Okay, well, still waiting on Biden to speak. Come on, old man. Skedaddle. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, I guess I could look at the content suggestions while we're waiting. Nothing that I haven't seen already.
And where all previous presidents in modern history were at that same moment. And when we did that analysis, when he was 4 points higher than he is now, he was behind every single president, going all the way back to President Eisenhower. At 41% at the time, the only person close to him was President Obama at 45%. But interestingly, President Obama made a pretty notable turn in his approval rating in that last year, really in the last 3 quarters of his first term, to end it with a 52% approval rating pre-election.
And we will see a little bit more of that conversation that Greta had with Mohammed Yunus a little bit later in our program. But ever since 1982, when President Reagan brought Lenny Skutnik, hero of the Air Florida crash, to the State of the Union, presidents have been inviting guests to sit with the First Lady up in the gallery. The role of the guest is to add to the president's message on certain themes and policy priorities. Among President Biden's guests tonight, two mothers. Katie Cox is from Texas. She spoke out nationally about reproductive care and her emergency need for an abortion. She was unable to get one in Texas after Roe v. Wade was overturned and the state's ban after the ruling. Another mother who is a guest of the president tonight, Latoria Beasley from Alabama. She was undergoing IVF when the Alabama Supreme Court ruled an embryo as a person, and those caught destroying embryos could be held legally accountable. This threw IVF in Alabama in limbo until action by the Alabama legislature, with several clinics stopping IVF services. A third guest, UAW Chief Shawn Fain. Let's go back to Greta Brawner.
Members of Congress also get to invite guests to tonight's State of the Union. They each get one guest. Families of American hostages in Gaza are expected to be in attendance with members of Congress. Man. Senator Tim Kaine has invited the first IVF person born in the United States to be his guest. And Speaker Johnson invited the parents of journalist Evan Gershkovich, who is being held in Russia. Senator Tammy Duckworth, and along with other Democrats earlier today, held a news conference to talk about the issue of IVF following that decision by the Alabama Supreme Court and the importance of it. The president is expected to talk about reproductive rights as well tonight. Here's a little bit about what the senator had to say on this issue.
A few weeks from now, I'm going to get to hold my younger daughter in my lap as she squeezes her eyes shut, makes a wish, and blows out 6 candles on her birthday cake. I get to have my 9-year-old run up and pull on my sleeve, begging for a piece without the frosting, because she doesn't like the frosting. I don't know how she's my daughter, but apparently she does not like frosting on her cake. I'll cherish every moment of it, as I always do. This year, though, I already know that it'll feel a little bit different, that I'll feel even more grateful than normal. Because, you see, after a decade of struggling with infertility, after my service in Iraq, I was only able to get pregnant through the miracle that is IVF. IVF is the reason that there are birthday cakes and birthday candles and birthday wishes and birthday gifts for both of my girls in the first place.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, giving the Republican response.
I told you guys, dude, it's going to be brutal for the rest of the election cycle, because the Republicans can't keep the IVF, the abortion shit. They can't keep it in their pants, so to speak. You know, they're just like incapable of it, and it's all their own fault. You know, it's all their own fault. It's not like anybody is forcing them to do this shit, right? It's not like anybody is forcing them to commit the political suicide that we're talking about. They're doing it themselves. It's just going to be Republicans getting raked over the coals for the next, I don't know, like 9 months. And I don't know how they come back from it in terms of, you know, having people want to be under Republican rule. Right? Like, when it comes to that, I have no idea how they get around it.
And
I want to fight you on this.
The president and Mrs. Biden to be leaving the White House.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, Bomber Guy did specifically call out people to not harass the guy. I want to fight you on this. If you're talking about IVF, you're insane.
Of the Capitol. And they will be parading there through Statuary Hall. That's a live picture of Statuary Hall. You'll also see the president's cabinet come through there, the Joint Chiefs, et cetera, et cetera. We'll capture as much of that as possible. Now, once the House lights come on, we will shut up here at C-SPAN, and we will let you see what's going on the House floor as the members gather to hear the president's speech tonight.
Okay, when you keep on wanting to fight me on the anti-theism thing, what part of the anti-theism thing do you want to fight me on? Because I don't care if someone's religious. I just care if they use religion to start attacking people. If people are going to start using religion to start, removing other people's rights, that's when I care. Otherwise, I don't.
Expected to announce that the U.S. military will establish a port on Gaza's coast that will be used to get aid in.
Oh my
God.
God.
As we told you earlier, this is from Jackie Heinrich with Fox News. A White House official tells me President Biden is not going to be making any announcements on executive orders for border security ahead of or during tonight's speech. And then there is this from Jim Vandehei of Axios. President Biden will use tonight's State of the Union address to admit that prices are still too high in some areas, but argue things were worse under the former president. And there is also this from NBC News. In his State of the Union address, President Biden will highlight the post-COVID economic recovery and lay out the administration's plans to revamp the tax code, expand housing supply, and reduce the federal budget deficit. Here's a little bit more in that reporting from Jeff Stein of the Washington Post. The president is expected to announce a 25% minimum tax on billionaires, quadruple stock buyback tax, create a new corporate minimum tax of 21%, and ban firms from deduction costs of paying salaries over $1 million off of federal taxes. Reproductive rights also expected to be talked about. Here's an excerpt from the president's speech tonight. It's in its decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court majority wrote, "Women are not without electoral or political power." No kidding. Clearly, those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women in America. But they found out that when reproductive freedom was on the ballot and won in 2022, 23, and they will find out again in 2024. The president is expected to go on and say this: if Americans send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you I will restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again. Peter?
Jeez.
Well, after the
Let's
president's
go,
speech
Brandon.
tonight, he will be hitting the campaign trail. He has 2 campaign events, one tomorrow in Philadelphia, and then on Saturday in Atlanta. You'll be able to see these on C-SPAN. And by the way, all Campaign 2024 coverage is available at cspan.org for you to watch when you want and where you want. Well, earlier this week, Speaker Mike Johnson previewed what he felt was a State of the Union. We'll get to that in just a minute. The Senate is just coming into session. This is where they gather on their side of the Capitol, and in a minute they will line up and they...
One second. Overall, my total thesis is religion doesn't matter. These people have their have their feelings hurt and their emotions are reacting emotionally, and their group is reinforcing their emotions. Then they turn to their books to get justification for how they feel. Okay, to circumvent like so much of this argument, do you think there is any part of this that they are informed by religion, or do you think that they inform the religious feelings? Because on one hand, I won't disagree, but on the other hand, they also are 100%, 1000% informed by the religion and by the religious leaders. Okay. They're lining up for the president to come in now. Come on, boys. Let's get this over with. Nothing? Or is it just silent? Come on. Let's see if we recognize anyone in this picture here. Damn, look at the old folks. Oh, there's Elizabeth Warren. No, I don't recognize any. Well, that guy looks familiar. I don't know what his name is. But outside of Elizabeth Warren and fella back here, I'm not recognizing any of these people. That might be McConnell right there. Oh, but he's covered up by the... No, that's definitely not McConnell. Never mind. Yeah, but I bet you... I would put good money down that most people that use the Bible verse, God knew who you were when you were still inside the womb, I guarantee you, the same people that use that kind of Bible verse to justify, imposing their religious doctrine on other people, 1,000,000%. I would put all of my life savings down. That someone that uses that probably just does not know the other verse about like abortion being in the Bible as something that God wanted people to do by drinking potions. And then they would also like twist and turn and say, well, the Old Testament, according to what my preacher tells me, doesn't count for, that only counts for some people, namely the Jews. Man, there's not a single person on, oh no, I see Ted Cruz there. God, I hate that guy so much. Well, I guess it's just going to sit here in silence while we wait for the president to get there. So let's pull back up our window. Let's see what this guy has to say real quick.
This video was brought to you by Nebula. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's wartime unity cabinet is anything but united, with some even describing it as being at war with itself. With Netanyahu's approval ratings having collapsed since October 7th, and polls suggesting that he and his party will be kicked out of office come the next election, he has so far survived as the war in Gaza has continued. But now, as we'll explain in this video, a number of coalescing factors threaten to topple Netanyahu, including a political fight over the drafting of ultra-Orthodox Jews into the military, key political rivals in cabinet making maneuvers, disagreements over the direction of the war, and increasingly tense relations with the United States. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. First things first though, we need to explain a little about Israel's Haredi community. Haredim are basically ultra-Orthodox Jews who make up about 13% of the country's population, and who for decades have had a tricky relationship with Israel's less religious, more secular majority.
And
one major point of contention is
picture of the Senate in their chamber. They're getting ready to walk over to the House side. That will be about a 2-minute walk. They'll go through Statuary Hall where all the media is.
Bro, come on.
The fact that young Haredim have a de facto exemption from mandatory military service in order to focus on full-time religious study at yeshivas, for which they receive a government-funded stipend. Back in 2017, Israel's High Court ruled that the blanket exemption for yeshiva students was unconstitutional and ordered the government to pass legislation to rectify it within a year. But there were a series of extensions to that deadline over the years due to political instability that saw 5 elections in less than 4 years. So skip ahead to today, and Netanyahu's government faces an end-of-March deadline to bring forward a new legal agreement regulating Haredi military service. Israel's Attorney General has told the High Court that if no legislation is brought forward by the April 1st deadline, then the state will be forced to draft Haredi men into the military and end the state-funded stipend for yeshiva students. Now, as you can imagine, Hamas's October 7th attacks and the ensuing war disrupted progress towards a resolution to this question. But tensions have only increased between non-serving Haredim and their fellow citizens, who have been called up to serve in record numbers, with the government moving to extend their length of service and raise the age at which they're released from duty. The challenge for Netanyahu is that his coalition includes a number of small Haredi parties that oppose lifting the exemption and drafting Haredi Israelis. So any solution that leaves them unhappy risks collapsing the entire government. But with the deadline fast approaching, Netanyahu was put into an even more difficult position by his own defense minister, Yoav Gallant, who is from Netanyahu's Likud party, who's previously clashed with Netanyahu over his controversial judicial reforms. Anyway, Gallant called for the end of the blanket exemption for Haredi, saying that without physical existence, there is no spiritual existence, adding that everyone must bear the burden of service. Crucially, Gallant said that he would only put forward legislation if it had the support of all parties in the emergency coalition, which includes not just the ultra-Orthodox parties, but also the more centrist National Unity Party, previously the opposition, but who joined the wartime cabinet in October, and which wants to see the Haredim drafted into the military. Now, the National Unity Party is led by Benny Gantz, who, despite serving in the wartime cabinet, is basically Netanyahu's top political rival. While Netanyahu's popularity has plummeted since October 7th, Gantz's party is far ahead in the opinion polls, which suggests that the anti-Netanyahu bloc would comfortably oust Netanyahu's government if an early election was held. So let's consider some possible outcomes here. If the proposed legislation is designed to be acceptable to Benny Gantz, it risks falling foul of the ultra-Orthodox parties who could potentially collapse the government. But if it goes too far the other way in order to appease the ultra-Orthodox parties, Gantz will refuse to endorse it, Gallant won't bring the legislation forward, the deadline will come, the exemption will end, and the state must start enlisting Haredi students and halt funding yeshivas. This outcome would also prompt the ultra-Orthodox parties to pull out of the government, precipitating its collapse. And given the polling we talked about earlier, Netanyahu has a reason to fear an election, while Gantz, who effectively wields a veto over the legislation, has a whole load of reasons to want one, especially one in which the issue of ending Haredi exemption is at the front of people's minds, given that most Israelis support ending it. For Netanyahu, it appears that he's pinned his political survival to the war, knowing that when things settle down, he will, in all likelihood, be voted out of office when the Israeli public get the chance. As such, he's unsurprisingly warned that a general election during the war would mean defeat for Israel, the exact dream of Sinwar, Nasrallah, and Iran, referring to the leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah. But Netanyahu won't be able to avoid elections forever, and there are other visible cracks in his government too. At one end of the spectrum is the far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who has been generating a whole bunch of separate problems. For instance, he wanted to ban Palestinians and restrict Arab Israelis from worshipping at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan, a proposal that prompted top cabinet members to sideline Ben-Gvir and take over his responsibility for policy decisions relating to the Flashpoint site. At the same time, Ben-Gvir, who has publicly called for the government to end ceasefire and hostage negotiations with Hamas, instead saying that we must intensify the war. This is the only way we'll win. This is completely at odds with what the United States, Israel's staunchest ally, has been calling for, and will only serve to fuel the Biden administration's growing frustration with the Israeli government. And separately, the US has strongly rebuked Ben-Gvir and far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich for advocating for the re-establishment of Israeli settlements in the Gaza Strip. At the other end of the cabinet spectrum is Benny Gantz. He just recently made a high-level visit to the United States, where he met with Vice President Kamala Harris, among others. Gantz didn't get authorization for the trip from Netanyahu, who is said to have been furious, and gave Gantz a tough talk, reminding him that Israel has just one prime minister. So that's Netanyahu's current situation. He's being pulled in opposite directions by different factions of the cabinet. And there are decisions which need making imminently, which could risk toppling his government. The two key ministers, Gallant and Gantz, seem to be acting independently of Netanyahu in ways which intentionally or unintentionally seem to undermine him. At the same time as all of this, Netanyahu is watching his key rival, Benny Gantz, on an unsanctioned trip to the US, meeting with Kamala Harris and Antony Blinken, which suggests that Gantz is much more palatable to the White House, and, as one analyst puts it, sends an unmistakable signal of unhappiness with Benjamin Netanyahu. If you want to keep learning and expanding your knowledge, then I'd recommend that you check out Wendover Productions' brilliant series, The Logistics of X. Now, you likely know...
Okay, are we
And
starting yet?
He's no longer a senator, but he has privileges. There's Vice President Harris joining the group, and she'll escort with them over across the Capitol. And looks like there's some activity at the White House as well. We expect the President and Mrs. Biden to depart from the South Portico in just a few minutes, and we'll catch that action as well. The House lights in the Capitol, in the House, should be coming up in about 5 minutes or so. When that happens, that means a lot of the members are on the floor. We'll have TV coverage, and we'll be able to watch 20, 25 minutes of coverage before the speech begins. Now, after President Biden's speech, Katie Britt, first-term senator, Alabama, will be giving the Republican response. She's 42 years old, a longtime legislative aide to former Senator Richard Shelby. She is the youngest GOP woman senator ever elected. So, and she'll be giving the response about 5 minutes after the president finishes. Let's return to the Capitol and potentially to the White House as well.
Okay. Well, I guess we're just waiting. Me. Trump might have another rape case? Oh, no way. Wait, hold on. Let me do this super quick. Adult film Stormy Daniels drops a huge bombshell and implies that her sexual encounter with Donald Trump was not fully consensual. Oh, me, dude. This is probably going to be bad. Before even reading anything else, the rape case, the financial case in New York, both of those are like the least damaging to Trump whatsoever. I don't think it's a helpful thing for Biden or for the Democrats or for getting Trump out of office, like piling on and piling on and piling on. Get this man convicted of the serious charges, and then if you want to keep on going, go after that. But I feel like this is just like giving them ammunition. I don't remember how I got in the bed, and the next thing I know, he was humping away and telling me how great I was. It was awful, but I didn't say no. I maintained that it wasn't rape in any fashion, but I didn't say no because I was 9 years old again. She went on, referring to when she was molested as a child. To this day, I blame myself and have not forgiven myself because I didn't shut his ass down in that moment. So maybe make him pause before he tried it with someone else. The hardest part about all this is that I feel that I am partially responsible for every woman that could have come after me. Trump allegedly cornered her when she was emerging from the bathroom, and the way she describes it certainly doesn't sound consensual. It's not going to go anywhere, and also it's probably just not helpful whatsoever. Why does it keep on saying that people are cut off from the throne? Oh, it's because they're on the back edge right there. Okay, got it.
And you can see the Senate there walking through Statuary Hall into the House chamber. We expect the president to be leaving shortly from the White House, 16 blocks up Pennsylvania Avenue. Of course.
Oh my God. Why are you still here? Why? Joseph, I know who you are. You are Panda Man. We all know that you're Panda Man. Why the are you still here? Nobody wants you here. I don't want you here. How many accounts? How many accounts do we have to ban? How many times do I have to unambiguously say, do not come back? How many times? This is one reason why you keep on getting banned. If you had, I don't know, like the first or second time you made a fake account and then we like let you stay because fuck it, had like gotten the message, like chilled out and then come back in 6 months, that's one thing. But this is ridiculous, dog. Go away and do not come back. See, we could call it daddy abandonment issues, but we've heard his dad on stream, and I know we still have the VOD somewhere on YouTube of his dad coming in and yelling at him for taking a shit and then using cologne to use as an air freshener. And his dad's just yelling at him in the background while we're in the middle of a debate, which was, granted, really funny, but also, holy shit, go away. I don't need to hear about like rape apologia. I don't need to hear about how unempathetic women can be to people who like may or may not have raped them. I don't need to hear any of that. I don't care what your opinion is. Go. Is that my internet or is that the stream? Okay. Oh, Mitchy boy.
This video was brought to you by Nebula.
Oh, stop. We've already watched you. Go away. Come on, start already so that I can't stream through the entire thing if he's going to take this long to start speaking. There's Manchin, there's Romney, and Elizabeth Warren. Oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why are so many people wearing white? Let's see. Is it the squad or people aligned with the squad? Do we recognize anyone from the squad in white? Because I'm thinking it might be for Gaza. God, the new Speaker of the House, he just looks so so uncomfortable all the time, dude. He just looks like he does not want to be there every single time I see him somewhere. Why is all of the tribute meat? It's so strange. Meat and ore. Oh, there's Lindsey Graham. Let's see. Who else do we see here? We're trying to zoom in on Lindsey Graham and everybody else is getting in the way. Josh Hawley there. Oh, there's Raphael Warnock. Met that guy. Hi. Is it actually supposed to start at 8 p.m.? And like all of the shit that I read was just like absolutely false. Okay, well, we're going to mute this.
Has come under fire for suggesting the West might deploy troops to Ukraine. But despite that backlash, the Elysee isn't backing down. A palace source says Ukraine's allies must debate the issue. The source says there are all kinds of things ruled out 2 years ago that are no longer ruled out, and that France fears giving credence to the possibility that Russia can win. All this after Mr. Macron's comments, if you remember, on Monday. And to be clear, the French president didn't actually say he wanted to send troops to Ukraine. He only said it's being discussed with other leaders. Here's what he told reporters after Ukraine Aid Summit.
There's no consensus today to officially send, support, and to take responsibility for troops on the ground. But as things develop, nothing should be off the table. We will do everything necessary so that Russia cannot win this war.
While most European leaders agree on board with the part about defeating Russia, but the idea of sending in their own troops, well, that drew backlash. Officials from a growing list of countries, you can see that, including the UK, Germany, Spain, Italy, Slovakia, and Poland, all say they have no plans to send their forces to Ukraine. A NATO official tells CNN the alliance won't be deploying combat troops either. And the Kremlin has also responded following Mr. Macron's comments. A spokesperson says conflict with Russia is inevitable if the West sends troops to Ukraine. And we've just seen in the last few minutes, in fact, that the State Department has also commented on this. The State Department reiterating that President Biden has ruled out sending US troops to fight in Ukraine in response to Macron's comments, saying sending Western troops to Ukraine cannot, obviously what Macron heard, cannot be ruled out. So we have response now from the US State Department. Melissa Bell joins me now for more.
I think it's so crazy how one war has fundamentally changed how we try to protect our tanks, right? Like people called these cope cages before because Ukraine was just dropping grenades into the open hatch on top or onto the fuel tanks. I watched a video of a Ukrainian drone dropping a grenade. It ignited the fuel tank so it couldn't move, and then they just kept on dropping grenades until it actually went into the hatch and it exploded. But like all of this and the cages on top are meant to prevent that. Or like rocket propelled grenades, they're supposed to make them detonate on these before they actually hit the side armor or the tread armor of the tank. Like one war has fundamentally shifted the entire way we view tank warfare.
Cannot be ruled out. So we have response now from the US State Department. Melissa Bell joins me now for more. And Melissa, I mean, it's clear that as we've just outlined there, the European leaders have been...
Honestly, I'm almost war hockey on... Almost. Not quite, but I'm almost war hawkish on the Ukraine situation. Like, I understand in my head why we should never send US troops to fight Russian troops in Ukraine. I understand why. At the same time, goddamn, wouldn't it just be great if we could finish this war in like 3 or 4 weeks? You know, France, Britain, USA, you know, Poland, since they want to get into the fight. They've been wanting to get into the fight for super long. Like, it would be over in like 3 weeks. And we could just have it end, but we can't. And it's so gay.
Pretty swift in their response to Macron's comments. Before we talk about how they're responding individually, just frame for us what Macron said and how it's being received at home.
We'll just listen to this for a second while we wait for the State of the Union
what he had to announce in his press conference. And this was, Issa, in response to a question that was asked about whether this issue had been raised and debated over the course of the conference that was held here in Paris. Yes, it had, he said, because it was time that a debate began. The idea is that this should be the beginning of a debate about whether any individual countries, and we've been speaking to Élysée sources since some of that backlash that you mentioned. And what Emmanuel Macron is suggesting is not that France should encourage Germany or Poland or other countries who now said they will not be sending troops to Ukraine to do so. On the contrary, that individual countries should be considering whether or not they are willing to send perhaps not so much initially combat troops, but things like deminers, people to help with the maintenance of Western equipment, border guards, for instance, to help liberate some Ukrainian troops that they can be redeployed for combat. That is the initial suggestion that was behind Emmanuel Macron's comments. And I think it's important to note that there have been words of support. For instance, Lithuania's foreign minister has said that it is time to consider all the options that there may be amongst Western allies about what may come next. The idea is that 2 years into this war, and with things stagnating as much as they are, that Western allies should be willing to consider individually whether or not they want to get further involved. And I think what the Élysée sources have been saying is that this is important from the point of view of sending a signal to Moscow of strategic ambiguity, that nothing should be off the table in order that Moscow should not assume that what has been will continue to be. And essentially, as you mentioned, Macron's point is that there have been so many issues that have been off the table so far, things that have now been agreed to, F-16s, the sending of long-range missiles, and the sending of troops should be amongst that, Isa.
But the way he framed that line that we heard there sounded like that wasn't discussed at this summit, and at least from what we've heard as well, the kind of pushback we've heard from some European leaders. Was this even discussed at all? He says it's time it's discussed. Was it even discussed?
We've understood that it began to be raised during this conference, but of course it will be a question for individual countries. For instance, France is about to begin debating in its parliament how it goes forward with this war, what its consequences are for France, and we understand that this may be a part of the future discussions. The suggestion was that debate began about this issue, and this should now be a debate and a consideration for individual countries. Not that NATO or the European Union should send troops in, but that individual allies may now consider something that until now had been something of a red line. And I think the response from Moscow, the very strong response, that this would inevitably lead to a confrontation between NATO and Russia.
Stun seed.
From the point of view of the Élysée, that message has been heard, that everything is possible and that they need to be paying attention, Issa.
Very important context there from our Melissa Bell in Paris. Great to have you on, Melissa. Thank you very much. Let's get more analysis on this. I'm joined now by Reem Montage. She's a research fellow for European foreign policy and security at the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Reem, welcome back to the show. You would have heard there Melissa Bell talking about this in detail, but you would have seen, Reem, the European leaders being kind of very swift, very quick as well, and tough on their response, themselves really trying to distance themselves, just to say, from Macron. What do you make, first of all, Reem, of how Macron framed it here?
So unlike his usual way of talking, Macron was pretty prudent in the way he answered the question. What had happened is that before this conference that he had organized with about 20 heads of state and government, mainly from Europe, to look at how European countries can do more to support Ukraine in its fight for survival, the Slovak prime minister had raised this issue of possibly sending Western troops to Ukraine. He had not talked about Western troops engaging in any kind of frontline combat, of course, against Russian troops. And so at the presser, Emmanuel Macron was asked to comment on that statement by the Slovak prime minister. And he basically said this had come up during their conversations and their discussions during that conference, and that nothing could be ruled out, and that the main message should be to send to Russia is that the Europeans are going to do everything that is necessary in order to ensure that Russia doesn't win. So he was quite non-committal because
Colt 45 and two zigzags? What's a zigzag?
We have been hearing that it does seem to be a shift, at least in tone, Reem.
Why is nobody opening this up? This guy's about to die of hunger.
CNN, the question of Kiev's allies sending troops to Ukraine is, quote, a debate that we must have. So clearly not backing down at all. But we have heard in the last, few hours, I should say, support also, Reem, from some allies. Well, a friend of the show here, the Lithuanian foreign minister, who said, I'm going to bring it up, Europe's fate is being decided on the battlefields of Ukraine. Times like these require political leadership, ambition, and courage to think out of the box. The initiative behind the Paris meeting yesterday is well worth considering. So not complete. I mean, some believing, like Landsbergis, this might be the moment to start talking about it.
To be honest, some aspects of this idea have been discussed among allies for the past couple of weeks in various fora, not necessarily at the highest levels, but there have been some testing grounds to see who might be willing to do this and what they might be willing to do. Of course, everyone has in mind that they don't want to lead to any kind of escalation, any kind of direct combat, any kind of direct contact between Western military and Russian military. So that is front of mind. They're also looking at the rules of engagement. If they send in trainers, for example, to train Russian troops, which, by the way, they have been doing in Poland, they have been doing in the UK, they have been doing in Germany. If they decide to move that training,
right? He was feeling his way down the street with this stick, right?
It's Afro Man.
Hey, check this out, man. It was this blind man, right? You like that? Woo! Good morning, ladies.
Okay, I'll listen to that later. I think it's time, or about time. I don't understand why Mike Johnson just always looks like he's about to cry, dude. I don't understand. Here we go.
The Dean of the Diplomatic Corps.
Come on, start.
Mr. Speaker, the Chief Justice and Associate Justices of the Supreme Court.
Let's get something straight. No one claims that Russia, China, or Iran are perfect countries. There is no such thing as a perfect country, but they are the main countries that resist the global system, which is currently enslaving the world and committing a genocide in Gaza. What are these two guys doing for Gaza right now? We know that these guys are them up and giving them more materials for missiles so that they can perpetually die for a cause that Iran wants, not the Palestinians want, right? And then look at this first comment under as well. I don't care about a country's internal flaws. I care if they can resist the global liberal order. Yeah, okay. You wouldn't be saying that if they were a fascist, but global liberal order, what does that mean nowadays? It means that most countries are liberal. They are running on a capitalist, what do you call it? Economic policy or system, and because they work under those, everybody is a slave and nobody has any thoughts to themselves, because everything, like, it's literally just like, we need to find something to blame. Seems like socialism is something that we can blame, or I'm sorry, capitalism is something that we can blame, that we can put all of the world's woes upon. And that's literally it. What does it mean? It means nothing. It means I do not like capitalism. Or more accurately, what it means is I don't know how to make, I don't know how to make my life better. So I have to find someone to blame. And I'm going to blame an economic system rather than my own shitty life choices. That's what it means. Oh my God. Can I put better looking flooring down on this thing? Yes, I can. Any minute now they'll start. Any minute, I swear to God, guys, these guys will have to, they'll be forced to start at a certain point. I promise. It's gotta happen eventually. Is that George? No. I thought that was George Santos for a second. Jesus Christ, I thought that was George Santos. If you don't know who George Santos is, he basically lied his way into Congress, like in a hyper disgusting way. Like, it was bad. Lied about his credentials, lied about everything. Bro, it's... Oof. I thought it was him. Oh, look, all of the worst people in the world standing in one small section of that room. All of the worst people in the world. Who in the is that guy? What the What's up with that guy's hair, guys? Okay, hold on. I desperately want to know why State of the Union wearing white. Why are people wearing white? Nothing? Really? That's sort of hyperbolic. I mean, yes, obviously it's hyperbolic. Yes. I personally greatly dislike every single person that was in that shot. Every single person in that shot, either for personal reasons, policy reasons, or for... Mostly, I was looking at Ted Cruz, man, and that guy is just not a good person, like both on a policy level and we looked up the opinion polling of him like 2 streams ago. Oh, that guy's also oh, look, he's sitting right next to Boebert. Who would have guessed? Ah, a little fist bump. But yeah, like nobody likes Ted Cruz. Nobody has a positive image of him either for policy reasons or for personal reasons. Like, he's just like an unlikable fellow, but he still gets elected in because people really dislike Democrats down here in Texas. Boebert, didn't she abuse her husband? I know that she's going through a divorce, and then she also like tried to give a guy an over the pants hand job during a musical. I think it was I think they were watching Beetlejuice, the musical, and she was like really cranking and blowing out clouds from her vape, and everybody around her was like, "Hey, can you please stop? I'm trying to watch this." And she was talking, and she was drunk, and she was blowing fat clouds from her vape, and this woman who was sitting next to her was pregnant, and she was like, "Ma'am, I'm pregnant. Can you please not do that right next to me?" And she wouldn't stop. She had to be removed because the security was called on her, and they walk over right as she's giving this guy like an over the pants hand job, and it's all caught on security camera, every bit of it. And she's just like part of like the cuckoo like side of the Republican Party. Like, say what you will, okay? Say what you will about the Democrats and the cuckoos on their side, right? Like Rashida Tlaib and the Ilhan Omar and, you know, arguably AOC. Like, say what you will about that, but you don't see them in the kind of scandals that you see conservatives in. Marjorie Taylor Greene cheating on her husband with another like political person. It's just like, Jesus Christ, these people they're so messy. They're so messy, dude. Okay, here. Why some Democrats are wearing white and other symbols. Let me guess. It's about... Oh, never mind. It's about abortion. Other members are wearing blue to show support for Israeli hostages taken after Hamas's October terror attack. I'm sure that there are some people in the progressive wing that are upset about that. Some Republicans are wearing pins that say her name, Laken Riley. While running on the University of Georgia's campus last month, the suspect charged in her death was a Venezuelan migrant who is illegally in the U.S. Okay. Pass the bill. Pass the bill that everybody is saying that you should pass. These people want there to be more women like murdered by they want there to be more women murdered by illegal immigrants so that they can continue to use them as political punching bags. Like, that's literally the only reason. Okay, we're still not started. It's 8:09, an hour and 10 minutes after I was told the speech was supposed to start. It's got to start eventually, right? This is so aggravating, dude. We have the justices right there talking to someone. And here comes Biden. Oh, that's the first lady. But it means that we're about to start. Oh, yay, oh, yay. Wait, that's the wrong place for that, isn't it?
Mr. Speaker, the President's Cabinet.
Do I not get those points back? Did I just waste like 100,000? My life. I just wasted so much knowledge, dude. My life. Wow. Hi, food shops. We need a gay black female president. Press 1 to agree. 10 out of 10, dude. Get your kick chat on screen. There's something happened when OBS updated. I'm trying to, but I don't know what the problem is. Oh, it should start any second now, guys. I keep on waiting. Oh, look, there's Bobert. You think that she's going to give Matt Gaetz an over-the-pants hand job on this occasion, or do you think that that's relegated just for musicals? Food shops. You know, food shops, I mean to ask, how does it feel to be like the person to go to? It's got to be a mixture of emotion. But like, since everyone won't shut the f up about lolicon and, whether that makes you, all of that. Everyone wants you on their panels for that. How does that feel? I'm sure it must be like somewhere in between, like excited and also like, oh God, oh, this is my life now. Oh no. Joe.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I just got an invite to watch this with someone else. Hello?
Yo.
How's it going?
All right. I haven't started just yet. I'm getting set up right now.
Oh, I am live right now.
Yeah, that's fine. I saw that you were already live. I'm having a problem with one of my cameras, so I'm trying to fix this real quick.
Okay, gotcha. Well, should I hop out and then come back when you message me that your stream is
I'll
up?
just send you a DM. Yeah, give me like 5 minutes.
Gotcha. TOM Tom. Free content and free growth, can't complain too much. Yeah, that's like, I don't know. I see, that's like the good aspect of it, but then like I also like look at it from my perspective and I'm like, man, I'm so tired of everyone talking about it constantly. It's like the topic won't go away. Most of my other content nets me the most growth. Oh, so the lolly stuff is not your primary pull. Most of it's boring, so I pick my battles now. I just can't. I've stopped looking at other people's Discords because it's every single day somebody has to have an opinion on age of consent. It's every single day, and I want some relief. Okay, I need somebody to please, for the love of God, have a backbone and just like stop talking about it. And holy shit, Biden needs to start speaking because I'm gonna have to end the stream. Oh my God. Off. Get your selfies afterwards. That's a fact, Jack. This guy's just happy to be there, guys. That dude on the right, this guy's just happy to be there. Let me just squeeze into that selfie with you guys real quick, like. Please start, please. For the love of God, it's gotta eventually start. All right. I don't have any predictions for I don't have like much to talk about until he actually starts speaking. because we've already seen and gone over what he might talk about, the things that they've confirmed that he's going to talk about. And yet, there's still no speech. That's it. I'm not voting for Biden anymore because he takes too long to walk to the podium. Most of my growth comes from covering big dramas. Even the big dramas are kind of like boring to me now. I don't know. Maybe I am old. I'm just old and decrepit and out of the loop on everything. Old and decrepit. Well, eventually it's going to start. I'm really pissed because like everything that I saw said that it was going to start at 7 p.m. And now I'm probably going to have to end stream in like 30 minutes.
Good evening. Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now.
Like, I'm not willing to like put out all my personal information. So all I can do is like, there's people who have met the people who know about all this shit, and they can tell you, yes, I've met these people. They're real people. You know, same thing with like.
Okay, they're not watching it yet.
I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people that this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Now, it's we who face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union. And yes, my purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either. Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time. Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
Based?
But Ukraine can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine and provide the weapons that needs to defend itself. That is all. That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American soldiers. In fact, there are no American soldiers at war in Ukraine, and I'm determined to keep it that way. But now, assistance to Ukraine is being blocked by those who want to walk away from our world leadership. It wasn't long ago when a Republican president named Ronald Reagan thundered, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote.
That's a
quote.
Former
president
Jack.
actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable. America is a founding member of NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations, created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace. And today, we've made NATO stronger than ever. We welcomed Finland to the alliance last year. And just this morning, Sweden officially joined, and their minister is here tonight. Come here, stand up. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And they know how to fight. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to NATO, the strongest military alliance the world has.
Okay, I'm sorry, I had to pause it. Really quick, I cannot believe Tom invited me to watch the thing.
And then come back to like my own shit and answer. So yeah, I'm thinking about just doing like a manifesto video essay sort of thing.
Tom invited me to watch the State of the Union, and then he's like talking about his drama instead. Jesus Christ.
Ever seen. I say this to Congress, we have to stand up to Putin.
Based?
Send me a bipartisan national security bill. History is literally watching. History is watching. If the United States walks away, it will put Ukraine at risk. Europe is at risk. The free world will be at risk, emboldening others to do what they wish to do us harm. My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away. We will not bow down.
I always love the vice president in every State of the Union address. They have to get up and applaud after every single thing the president says. So, like, there's no point in sitting back down. You just got to get back up.
Storm this very Capitol and place a dagger to the throat of American
Watch
democracy.
her.
Many of you are here on that darkest of days. We all saw with our own eyes the insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War. But they failed. America stood. America stood strong, and democracy prevailed. We must be honest. The threat to democracy must be defended. My predecessor and some of you
he's got a
here
little
seek
bit
to
of
bury
meth
the
in him.
truth about January 6th.
Just a spot.
I will not
just
do
a
that.
touch.
This is the moment to speak the truth and to bury the lies. Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win.
True.
As I've done ever since being elected to office, I ask all of you without regard to party to join together and defend democracy. Remember your oath of office to defend against all threats, foreign and domestic. Respect free and fair elections, restore trust in our institutions, and make clear political violence has absolutely no place in America, zero place. Again.
January 6th rioters, as bad as they are for their actions, are patriots in that they did what they did out of, albeit incorrect, belief about their... I mean, yeah, but it doesn't excuse it or the actions that led them to believe those things, right?
It's not...
Like, I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying there, but it doesn't excuse it, and it doesn't make his point any less valid.
Children and grandchildren will read about this day and what we do. History is watching another assault on freedom. Joining us tonight is Latoya Beasley, a social worker from Birmingham, Alabama. 14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to the miracle of IVF.
Uh-oh.
She scheduled treatments to have that second child. But the Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait. What her family had got through should never have happened. Unless Congress acts, it could happen again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like hers. To my friends across the aisle, don't keep this waiting any longer. Guarantee the right to AVF.
I'm messaging you right now, Tom. To say that they're not patriotic is simply false. I don't know. I feel like it's such a... For the President of the United States, while condemning the day, to add a million caveats like that, I think it's too much. To, like, well, they were patriots and that they believed this, but, like, also it's bad, but, like, no, they tried to do horrible shit on January 6th.
Look at the chaos that has resulted. Joining us tonight is Kate Cox, the wife and mother from Dallas. She's become pregnant again and had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kate that her own life and her ability to have children in the future were at risk if she didn't act. Because Texas law banned her ability to act, Kate and her husband had to leave the state to get what she needed. What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening in too many others. There are state laws banning the freedom to choose, criminalizing doctors, forcing survivors of rape and incest to leave their states to get the treatment they need. Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising to pass a national ban on reproductive freedom. My God, what freedom else would you take away? Look,
Jesus. My God, what freedom else would you take?
The Supreme Court majority wrote the following, and with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about.
You about to learn, bitch.
Clearly, those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women. But they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024. If you, the American people, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
There we go.
Folks,
gonna hit the same point over and over and over. Break it over the Republicans' head the entire season.
To show what I believe
electoral
is the way
season.
Forward. Because I know how far we come. 4 years ago next week, before I came to office, the country was hit by the worst pandemic and the worst economic crisis in a century. Remember the fear, record losses. Remember the spikes in crime and the murder rate, raging virus that took more than 1 million American lives, of loved ones, millions left behind. A mental health crisis of isolation and loneliness. A president, my predecessor, failed the most basic presidential duty that he owes to American people, the duty to care. I think that's unforgivable.
You lie. He did it.
I came to office determined to get us through one of the toughest periods in the nation's history. We have. It doesn't make news in 1,000 cities and towns. The American people are writing the greatest comeback story never told. So let's tell the story here. Tell it here and now. America's comeback is building the future of American possibilities, building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down, investing in all America, in all Americans, to make sure everyone has a fair shot, and we leave no one behind. The pandemic no longer controls our lives. The vaccines that saved us from COVID are now being used to beat cancer, turning setback into comeback. That's what America does. That's what America does.
That's what America does, guys. How's the speech so far? It's pretty good. Nothing that I would super disagree with at all.
My inherited economy is on the brink. Now our economy is literally the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs in just 3 years, a record, a record. Unemployment at 50-year lows. A record 16 million Americans are starting small businesses, and each one is a literal act of hope. With historic job growth and small business growth for Black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting. Where is it written we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world? We are.
Well, it basically just started, so.
More people have health insurance today. More people have health insurance today than ever before. The racial wealth gap is as small as it's been in 20 years. Wages keep going up. Inflation keeps coming down. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world, and tending lower. The landing is and will be soft.
Joe Scarborough.
And now, instead of importing,
I can't watch another video. I have to end in like 5 minutes, 10
we're
minutes,
exporting
maybe.
American products and creating American jobs.
Sorry, that was mean. Yeah, you're new here. Join the Discord and post it there so that I can watch it, but I can't watch it tonight. We're watching this.
Right here in America, where they belong. And it takes time, but the American people are beginning to feel it. Consumer studies show consumer confidence is soaring. Buy America has been the law of the land since the 1930s. Past administrations, including my predecessor, including some Democrats as well in the past, failed to buy American. Not anymore. On my watch, federal projects that you fund,
not on Biden's
like
watch,
build
baby.
American roads, bridges, and highways will be made with American products and built by American workers, creating good-paying American jobs. And thanks to our CHIPS and Science Act, the United States is investing more in research and development than ever before. During the pandemic, a shortage of semiconductors, chips, that drove up the price of everything from cell phones to automobiles. And by the way, we invented those chips right here in America. Well, instead of having to import them, private companies are now investing billions of dollars to build new chip factories here in America, creating tens of thousands of jobs. Many of those jobs paying $100,000 a year and don't require a college degree. In fact, my policies have attracted $650 billion in private sector investment in clean energy, advanced manufacturing, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America. And thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Because this is
If any of you don't want that money in your
a
district,
major
just let me
political
know.
thing that's happening live, so I'm going to listen to it and give my commentary if something really big happens.
Removing poisonous lead pipes so every child can drink clean water without risk of brain damage.
If it wasn't live, I'd be pausing it all the time.
Affordable high-speed internet.
Or if I had
for
all
every
night,
American,
I'd be
no matter
pausing it all the
where you
time.
live, urban, suburban, or rural communities in red states and blue states. Record investments in tribal communities. Because of my investment in family farms, because I invested in family farms led by my Secretary of Agriculture, who knows more about this than anybody I know, we're better able to stay in the family for those farms and their children and grandchildren won't have to leave home to make a living. It's transformative. The great comeback story is Belvedere, Illinois, home to an auto plant for nearly 60 years. Before I came to office, the plant was on its way to shutting down. Thousands of workers feared for their livelihoods. Hope was fading. Then I was elected to office, and we raised the Belvedere repeatedly with auto companies, knowing unions would make all the difference. The UAW worked like hell to keep the plant open and get these jobs back, and together we succeeded. Instead of auto factories shutting down, auto factories reopening, and new state-of-the-art battery factories being built to power those cars there at the same. The folks at Belvedere, I say, instead of your town being left behind, your community is moving forward again. Because instead of watching auto jobs of the future go overseas, 4,000 union jobs with higher wages are building the future in Belvedere right here in America.
The fact that he's hitting on so much, like, one second, let me turn it down slightly. What he's hitting on is like economic populism while maintaining American patriotism in our institutions, while attacking Republicans on the things that are going to be the biggest things in the entire election, abortion. This is a good speech so far. Let's hope he doesn't throw, guys.
Third generation worker, UAW worker at Belvedere. Sean, I was proud to be the first president to stand on the picket line. And today, Dawn has a good job in her hometown, providing stability for her family and pride and dignity as well. Showing once again, Wall Street didn't build America. They're not bad guys. They didn't build it, though. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class.
Uh-oh, let's hear the lefties get mad about this. Most pro-union president since FDR.
I say to the American people, when America gets knocked down, we get back up. We keep going. That's America. That's you, the American people. It's because of you America's coming back. It's because of you our future is brighter. It's because of you that tonight we can proudly say the state of our union is strong and getting stronger. Tonight, I want to talk about the future of possibilities.
Yeah, speed it up, Biden.
That we can build together. A future where the days of trickle-down economics are over, and the wealthy and the biggest corporations no longer get all the tax breaks. And by the way, I understand corporations. I come from a state that has more corporations invested than every one of your states in the state of the United States combined. And I represented it for 36 years. I'm not anti-corporation, but I grew up in a home where trickle-down economics didn't put much on my dad's kitchen table. That's why I determined to turn things around so middle class does well. When they do well, the poor go way up and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. And there's more to do to make sure you're feeling the benefits of all we're doing. Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world. It's wrong, and I'm ending it. With a law that I proposed and signed, not one of you Republican buddies voted for it. We finally beat Big Pharma. Instead of paying $400 a month or thereabouts for insulin with diabetes, and it only costs $10 to make, they only get paid $35 a month now and still make a healthy profit. And
I think that's only for, I don't think that's for all the forms of insulin. Like if you want the fast-acting, long-lasting insulin, I think it's still super fucking expensive.
For years, people have talked about it, but finally we got it done and gave Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices on prescription drugs, just like the VA is able to do for veterans. That's not just saving seniors money, it's saving taxpayers money. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion. Because Medicare will no longer have to pay those exorbitant prices to Big Pharma. This year, Medicare is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs on the market to treat everything from heart disease to arthritis. It's now time to go further and give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for 500 different drugs over the next decade. They're making a lot of money, guys.
You're making a lot of money, guys.
And they'll still be extremely profitable. Will not only save lives, it will save taxpayers another $200 billion. Starting next year, the same law caps total prescription drug costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year, even for expensive cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. Now I want to cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for everyone. Folks, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but if you want to get an Air Force One and fly to Toronto, Berlin, Moscow, even Moscow, probably. And bring your prescription with you, and I promise you I'll get it for you for 40% the cost you're paying now. Same company, same drug, same place. Folks, the Affordable Care Act, the old Obamacare, it's still a very big deal.
Okay, after he's done talking about health care, I'm hopping off,
Over 100
unfortunately.
million of you can no longer be denied health insurance because of pre-existing condition. But my predecessor, and many in this chamber, want to take this prescription drug away by repealing the Affordable Care Act.
No plan
I'm
to
not going to let that happen. We stopped you 50 times before, and we'll stop you again. In fact, I'm not only protecting it, I'm expanding it. We enacted tax credits of $800 per person per year, reduce health care costs for millions of working families. That tax credit expires next year. I want to make that savings permanent. To state the obvious, women are more than half our population, but research on women's health has always been underfunded. That's why we're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research, led by Jill, doing an incredible job as First Lady. We'll pass my plan for $12 billion to transfer women's health research and benefit millions of lives all across America. I know the cost of housing is so important to you. If inflation keeps coming down, mortgage rates will come down as well, and the Fed acknowledges that. But I'm not waiting. I want to provide an annual tax credit that will give Americans $400 a month for the next 2 years as mortgage rates come down, to put toward their mortgages when they buy their first home or trade up for a little more space. Just for 2 years. And my administration is also eliminating title insurance on federally backed mortgages. When you refinance your home, you can save $1,000 or more as a consequence. For millions of renters, we're cracking down on big landlords who use antitrust law, who break antitrust laws by price fixing and driving up rents. We've cut red tape so builders can get federally financing, which is already helping build a record 1.7 million new housing units nationwide. Now pass and build and renovate 2 million affordable homes and bring those rents down.
Nice. A good way to do things, as opposed to stupid-ass rent control.
To remain the strongest economy in the world, we need to have the best education system in the world. And I suspect all of you, want to give every child, a good start by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old.
I got to head out, guys. I have to cook dinner for myself. But I'm going to keep on listening, all right? If there's something that you guys want to, if you guys keep on listening on someone else's stream or on just by yourself, let me know if there are any good memes that you want me to talk about next time, and I will.
Not spoken to very often.
Love you guys very much, and I'll catch you guys next time, all right?
Having heard 1 million fewer words spoken.
If you guys haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube or follow me on Kick. And, we have the memberships on YouTube. We have the subscriptions on Kick. If you guys want to, throw a couple of bucks my way, there are some nice little treats for you different emotes and different AI things that the editor can do for you. All right. I'm really bad at promoing. I love you guys very much.